מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. שיר המעלות בשובו אדוני את שיבת ציון היינו כחולמים שבת שלום שבת שלום שבת שלום שבת שלום שיר המעלות בשובו אדוני את שיבת ציון היינו כחולמים שבת שבת שלום שבת שלום שבת שלום שבת שלום Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom. Torili ani horoe, Shoshanim torili izotola min amidvar izotola min amidvar Torili ani horoe, Shoshanim torili ekoteret mor olevona nor levona torili Torili ani loroe, Shoshanim torili Amidvar mizotola min amidvar Torili ani loroe, Shoshanim torili. Shabbat shalom. Let's try once more. Shabbat shalom. Excellent. All right, we continue on page 12 with the words Lechu neranana. Come, let us sing. Lechu neranana, yai lai 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 lai, Adonai, yai lai 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 lai, Nariya, yai lai 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 lai, Etzur yisheno, yai lai 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 lai, Nikad mafanav v'todah. שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני, ברכו שמו, מסרו מיום ליום ישועתו, ספרו לגויים לתורו, בכל העמים נפלאותיו, כי גדול אדוני, Adonai malach, tangel haaretz, yismecho im rabim. 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 La 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 la. Zamru Adonai Bechinor V'kol zimra Zamru Adonai Bechinor V'kol zimra Zamru Adonai Bechinor 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 Bechinor V'kol zimra Page 17. Romemor, 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 Adonai, Eloheinu. Romemor, 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 Adonai, Eloheinu. Nishtachavu Adon Ragav, Adon ושמו אחד שמול תפארת ולתהילה לך דודי לקראת כלה ונשבת שם בנקמלה לקראת שם לכוונך אימנו המרחה מראש מגבל נסוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה לך דודי לקראת כלה ונשבת שבת נקמלה מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה ומציא מתוך החרב לך שבט במחמך וכוח כמול עלייך כמלה לך דודי לקראת כלה ונשבת שבת נקמלה דינרי מעפר קומי ללשימביבה תפארתך מי על ין בנפשי ותהלך מקרב על נפשי קלה לך דודי לקראת כלה ונשבת שם בנקמלה אם תוררי כי בהורג ומאורי אורי אורי שיר נברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה לך דודי לקראת כלה ונשבת שם בנקמלה לך דודי לקראת כלה ונשמת נקבלה לא תבושי ולא תקלמי התשתוכחי ומתרמי אך יחסו אני עמי ונבנתה עיר על נטילה לך דודי לקראת כלה ונשבת נקבלה היו למשיסה שוסייך ורחקו כל מבלייך כסיס עלייך אלוהי כסמוס חתן על כלה לך דודי לקראת כלה ונשמת נקבלה ימין ושמאל תפרוצי ודרוני תריצי על יד איש בן פרצי ונשמחה ונגילה לך דודי לקראת כלה ונשמת נקבלה בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה גם שמחה ובצולה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי כלה בואי כלה again, Shabbat Shalom. Say hello to your neighbors across the aisle, across this beautiful sanctuary. Say hello to the folks online joining us via the live stream. You may have noticed that I am not Dan. Dan is actually in Minneapolis this evening at the synagogue I grew up at Temple Israel, helping celebrate the installation of his sister-in-law, cantor Inbal Sharet singer, who I know has graced this bima before as well. It's a small world, so welcome again to that small world, to these lovely Shabbat services. We continue on page 22. Mizmor shir le'om ha'shabbat tov lechodol Adonai ulzamer leshimcha
Anyone here ever taken a college-level organic chemistry course? I see a number of doctors here. Yeah. Anyone ever passed a college-level organic chemistry course? Because you're doctors. Apparently, organic chemistry is hard. I wouldn't really know because my brief interaction with ninth grade physics convinced me that if anything were to come of me, math, chemistry, and physics equations could not be part of my life equation. I did much better in disciplines that allowed for multiple answers or no answers. I loved literature. Kafka was a dream. He meant whatever you thought he meant. Or law school. You know, when I was in law school, it was here, take a case, argue any position. I did less well in disciplines where there's only one answer, right or wrong. And too often I couldn't explain myself out of the wrong answer. I'm happy to go through life with no understanding of organic chemistry. I never felt deprived. I never felt undereducated. Can never imagine ever needing to know anything about organic chemistry. But for those who want to become doctors, the stakes couldn't be higher. Passing organic chemistry is a prerequisite, still, I think, for most medical schools. In fact, the pre-med organic chemistry course often serves as a weeding out class where the group of young postulants is culled. Many aspiring doctors' dreams of medical school crashed against the immovable rock of organic chemistry. So the case of Professor Maitland Jones fascinates me. Have you heard about him? He literally wrote the book on organic chemistry. He taught at Princeton for decades, and recently at NYU. He received multiple awards for teaching, but last spring, 82 out of his 350 students signed a petition claiming that the course was too hard and blaming Dr. Jones for their poor test scores. At first, the university tried to placate the students, allowing them to withdraw from the class retroactively, thus sparing them a failing grade on their record. Administrators explained that this plan would extend a gentle but firm hand to the students, and they said to those who pay the tuition bills, apparently referring to pestering, pesky, pestiferous parents whose expensive dreams is to see their precious ones graduate medical school. Alas, in the end, the university terminated the professor's contract and he was fired, explaining that his performance did not rise to the standards expected of the NYU faculty. They must have been persuaded by the students' petition that asserted that a class with such a high percentage of withdrawals and low grades failed to make students' well-being a priority and reflected poorly on the institution, perhaps a subtle hint to the U.S. News and World Report university rankings. Now, I can't assess whether Professor Jones was a good teacher, or he was too hard, or perhaps he had become crustier in his advanced age of 84. Some students accused him of a condescending, sarcastic, and demanding tone. He pioneered new teaching methods, and I'm in no position to judge whether they were more or less effective than previous approaches. Furthermore, I can't opine on whether organic chemistry is necessary at all for many medical disciplines. I'm happy to leave it to the professionals to debate amongst themselves whether my ENT doctor needs to know organic chemistry at all. What does involve all of us are the observations of Dr. Jones about his contemporary students. He has interacted with generations of organic chemistry students. He said, especially after COVID, students didn't return to the class in anywhere near the numbers of pre-COVID. I sympathize with that. We have the same problem here. Dr. Jones spent his own money videotaping his lectures during the pandemic, and he said students weren't watching the videos either. They simply weren't able to answer the questions. They refused, he said, to put in the necessary work to master the material. He said that as early as 10 years ago, he began to notice that students were increasingly misreading exam questions. Exam scores began to decline. Students performed abysmally on exams that would have seemed too easy a few years before. He said that even the top students, while still deserving their excellent grades, were no longer being stretched. They weren't being challenged by their professors. He claimed that student evaluations, once highly useful, have become just another social media opportunity to vent. Evaluations are now often personal and sometimes profane, he said. Dr. Jones contended that even some tenured professors refuse to teach undergraduates. And untenured faculty are put in an untenable position. Their entire careers are at the peril of complaining students and deans who seem willing to turn students into nothing more than tuition-paying clients. Students need to take responsibility for failure, Dr. Jones argued. If they continue to deflect blame, they'll never grow. Failure should become a teachable moment. And teachers, he argued, must have the courage to assign low grades when students do poorly. And he emphasized, when critical thinking skills are desperately needed, it's more important than ever to dedicate ourselves to the high standards of education. Without those standards, we, as a nation, will not produce those individuals, doctors, engineers, scientists, citizens, who will guide us towards a better future. That argument resonated with me. It made me think. It has a kind of religious passion to it. Standards, education, rigorous study and examination, trying to ensure that the future will be better than the present and the past, and debating how science and technology can help bring about this better future. These are central preoccupations of Judaism and of all religions. In this week's Torah portion, we read of the Tower of Babel. You remember that passage? Somewhere in Mesopotamia, people decided to build a great city and an immense tower with its top in the sky. And when God came down to look at the tower, God scattered the people over the face of the earth, and they stopped building the city and the tower. Now, the conventional interpretation of many rabbis and scholars is that the transgression of the tower builders was their desire to build a tower touching heaven. That's how most people understand the passage. Those are the key words. Up to the sky, la shamai, to the heavens. According to this understanding, the heavens are God's realm, the moral realm. It is a warning of the danger of unbridled science. The human drive towards technological achievement carries with it the risk of destruction. Moral progress must be consistent with scientific progress, or else science will be the tool of our destruction. In the nuclear age, we live with this tension every day. But Franz Kafka typically had a different understanding. I like Kafka because, in contrast to organic chemistry, Kafka's stories have multiple meanings, and no one really understands Kafka. There's no one right answer. Now, I'm in my element with Kafka. I can say anything I want, I can give any answer I want, and who knows, I may be right, I may be wrong, and in any case, you don't really understand Kafka either. In a short story called The City Coat of Arms, you should read it, it's one page long. Kafka suggests that the problem of the Tower of Babel was not scientific and technological ambition. Rather, it was the loss of ambition, the loss of a desire to learn new science and new technology. That's the gravest threat to the future. It's when we cease seeking to advance science and technology. Kafka wrote that because the tower could not be completed in one generation, people assumed that since the next generation would have greater technological proficiency, they would disdain the work of the previous generation and would want to tear down what their predecessors built and start all over again. And this, Kafka writes, paralyzed people's ambitions. Why exert oneself to the extreme limit, he wrote, if it was all going to be torn down by the next generation? In typical Kafkaesque brilliance, he writes, the people troubled less about the tower than the construction of a city for the workmen. In other words, the project, which began as a great technological ambition to reach the very heavens, what we might call today to understand the mind of God, to unlock the mysteries of creation through science, to develop an understanding of how this all came to be, that project that began with great technological ambition devolved into a project simply to satisfy human needs. They cared more about the accommodations for the workers than the project themselves. It was no longer about building the tower. It was about creating accommodations for the workers around a technological project that would never be completed. And then people began behaving like they always do. Every nationality wanted the finest quarters for itself, Kafka wrote. And this gave rise to disputes, which developed into bloody conflicts, and that's the reason God scattered all the peoples around the earth. Kafka turned the conventional analysis exactly on its head. The problem was not that they tried to reach the heavens. It was the opposite. They ceased trying to reach the heavens. Their scientific ambitions and thus their technological accomplishments atrophied. I worry when we lower academic standards throughout the disciplines, but especially in science, because then we paralyze our ambition. Why exert oneself to the extreme if you can get by without such exertion? Why study if you can pass the course by dumbing down the curriculum? I worry that as a society, the priority, as the NYU students wrote in their petition, is the students' well-being, not the well-being of society in graduating doctors who actually know organic chemistry. I worry that as a nation, we are becoming too soft, that feelings for us are more important than facts or knowledge, and personal well-being outweighs collective well-being. Jews know in their kishkes, when we cease striving for excellence, when nations cease aspiring to touch the sky, inevitably they decline and sink into numbed mediocrity. We turn to page 146 for the Baruch Hu, and we rise.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam ha'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam. Ahavat olam bet Yisrael amehavta amcha avta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu limadeta al ken Adonai Eloheinu mishochmenu uvkumenu nasiach b'chukecha ונשמח בדברי תורתך ומצוותיך לעולם ועד. ימחיינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נגי יומם ולילה, נגי יומם ולילה. אהבתך לתסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל, אוהב עמו ישראל. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבדיך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכלך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו עשיתם את כל מצוותיי, הייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם. באמונה כל זאת וקיים עלינו, כי הוא אדוני אלוהינו. באמונה כל זאת וקיים עלינו, כי הוא אדוני אלוהינו. ואין זולתו ואין זולתו, אנחנו ישראל עמו, עבודנו מהמלכים, הגואלנו מיד כל העריצים. באמת באמונה כל זאת וקיים עלינו, כי הוא אדוני אלוהינו. באמת באמונה כל זאת וקיים עלינו, כי הוא אדוני אלוהינו. ואין זולתו ואין זולתו, ואנחנו ישראל עמו, עבודנו מהמלכים, הגואלנו מיד כל העריצים. אמן באמונה כל זאת, ומלכותו רצון יבואלם, משה מרים ובני ישראל, לכאן הושענה שמחה רבה, יאמרו עולם. כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נראה בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלך, נורא תהילות אוסף אלך. מלכותך ראו עיניך, וכעם לפני משה, זה אלינו ואמרו, זה אלינו ואמרו. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נראה בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלך, נורא תהילות אוסף אלך. ונאמר כי פתר אדוני את יעקב, וגלום יד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom, Shalom. Adonai Eloheinu Shalom, Shalom. Ve'amidenu shomrenu lechaim, lechaim, ushmor tzedkenu lechaim uleshalom, ushmor tzedkenu Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. בני ובן בני ישראל, בני ישראל אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל רוב בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. We rise for the Amidah. Adonai Svatai Tiftach, Adonai Svatai Tiftach, Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha, Ufi Yagid Adonai Svatai Tiftach, Adonai Svatai Tiftach, Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha, Ufi Yagid Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagipor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר הסנה אבות ואמהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. מוריד הטל, מקלקל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך מל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומקיים ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לך חיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We now offer a prayer for healing. Misha berach avotenu ve'imotenu Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah, hu yivarech et hacholim. Polisovsky, Mindy Belkin, Chana Leah, Eliana bat Chava Drezel v'Yonatan, Mordechai Baruch ben Tzipora Fagel, Shmuel ben Devora, Seth Corwin, Rhoda Finkelstein, Mark Galen, Edward Merginger, David Albert Pierce, Aaliyah Radin, Neil Radin, Gil Turner, Michael Wolf, Boris Zindels. And if there are people for whom you are praying for healing and you'd like to share their names out loud or in your hearts or in the chat, please do so now. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and for their strength to be revived. And let us say, Amen. We turn to page 282 for the Aleinu and we rise.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמענו כמשפחות האדם, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ ובראשו קרוב מפני ושכינתו וגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו ארון, אמת מלכנו, אפס זולתו, חוקתו ותורתו, ירד היום, והשבותה אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחתנו. נאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed from this earth. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We extend our sympathies to those who have lost loved ones in recent weeks: Pablo Eisenberg, Barbara Feldman, Barbara Pollock, Leslie A. Rifkin. And we remember the following yard sites of years past: Debbie Wasserman Billowit, Bill Habroshi, Sidney Chaikin, Grace Cohen, Max Fox, Philip Glasser, Donald Goldman, Leon Harris, Linda Harris, Stella Jolson, Ori Klein, Sally Klein, Harry Commissaro, Helene Krigier-Przedborski, George Levy, Tilly Margolis, Elsie S. Nurad, Gordon I. Novod, Vivian Rosenbaum, Matilda Rosenblatt, Ruth Rosenman, David Solomon, Rosalind Schmidt, David Silverman, Alexander A. Sinai, Joseph Steinfeld, Leon Steyer. And if there are people for whom you are saying Kaddish and you'd like to share their names out loud or in your hearts or on the chat, please do so now. We rise as one community for the Mourners Kaddish on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach yirutei ve'amlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shemei l'kudasha barichu la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu yaseh shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we say, Amen.
Oseh shalom kimromav hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru. Amen.
We close our service with words of blessing. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and may God protect you. Ye'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May God's face shine upon you and may God be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May you feel God's presence with you always, and may God give you God's greatest blessing, the blessing of peace.
We conclude with Oseh Shalom. Oseh Shalom bimroma, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Oseh Shalom bimroma, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Oseh Shalom bimroma, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Oseh shalom bimroma, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimroma, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimroma, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Please join us out in the lobby for Kiddush and Motzi. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom. עושה שלום במרומו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. עושה שלום במרומו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת